Dinner is on the table. You made something they liked yesterday, and your toddler picks up the bowl, looks you dead in the eye, and throws it on the floor. Oh, not an accident, not a mistake. They looked at you first. Your first instinct, this is defiance. This is manipulation. This needs to stop right now. But here's what no one tells you. That instinct, to punish, to react, to take the food away, is making it worse. Not a little worse, measurably worse. According to research from Dr. Philip Zelazo at the University of Minnesota, toddlers between ages 2 and 5 lack a functioning inhibitory control system, meaning your child is not choosing to throw the food. Their brain is physically incapable of stopping the impulse once it starts. Yes, in the next 7 minutes, you'll understand exactly what is happening in your toddler's brain at mealtime, and the 3 things that actually work, without yelling, without power struggles, without shame. Here's what the science actually shows. Food throwing is one of the most misunderstood toddler behaviors because it looks intentional. It looks like a choice, and that's exactly why parents respond to it the wrong way. We're going to look at 3 things today. First, what is actually happening in your toddler's brain when they throw food, and why it has nothing to do with defiance. Second, the 3 reasons toddlers throw food and what each one is telling you. And third, the strategies that actually reduce food throwing, based on what research says, not what your instinct says. Let's start with the brain. Your toddler's prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for impulse control, decision-making, and self-regulation, is the slowest developing structure in the human brain. Research from Dr. Philip Zelazo at the University of Minnesota tracked inhibitory control development in 465 children from ages 3.5 to 7. Safor. His finding, meaningful inhibitory control doesn't emerge until age 5 and continues developing for years after that. What does that mean at the dinner table? It means when your toddler sees the broccoli, feels the urge to throw it, that urge goes straight to action. There is no pause. There is no, should I do this, moment. The part of the brain that would stop the impulse simply isn't ready yet. This is not a discipline problem. This is a neuroscience problem. And here's the part that surprises most parents. For some, punishing a child for throwing food before their prefrontal cortex can regulate impulses is like punishing a toddler for not being able to run before they can walk. The behavior looks deliberate. The brain behind it is not ready. So why do they look at you before they throw? More on that in a moment. But first, let's talk about what throwing food actually means. Dr. Karen Adolph at NYU's Infant Action Lab has spent decades studying how toddlers learn through physical actions with objects. Her research shows that between ages 1 and 3, throwing, dropping, and banging objects is the primary way toddlers test cause and effect relationships in their physical world. When your toddler throws a piece of broccoli and watches it hit the floor, they are running an experiment. What happens when I let go of this? Does it fall the same way every time? Does it make a sound? Does mom react? This isn't bad behavior. This is your child's brain building the foundational physics knowledge it needs. The problem is the food. And this is where most parents get it completely wrong. Removing the food every time throws a wrench in the experiment, because it confirms to your toddler that throwing creates an interesting result. The experiment continues. Toddlers between 12 and 30 months are in a window of development where their understanding of the world dramatically exceeds their ability to express it verbally. They know they're done. They know they don't want it. They know they're bored. But they cannot say those words yet, or cannot say them quickly enough, calmly enough, with the vocabulary they'd need. So throwing is language. I'm done, looks like a plate on the floor. I don't want this, looks like a cup flying off the tray. I'm overwhelmed and I need to get out of this chair. Can look like exactly the kind of mealtime scene that ends up on social media. A 2023 review of parental food communication, published in the Health Promotion Journal of Australia, found that toddlers were significantly more likely to communicate food refusal through physical behavior, including throwing and pushing food away, when caregivers were not responsive to early hunger and fullness cues. In other words, when adults aren't reading the signal gets louder. And then there's the third reason, the one that involves that look. When your toddler looks at you before they throw, they are not being manipulative. They are doing something developmentally sophisticated. They are checking your face for social information. This is called social referencing, the use of a caregiver's emotional expression to guide behavior in uncertain situations. Research consistently shows that toddlers use parental facial cues to decide whether to continue or stop an action. Here's what this means practically. When a parent reacts, with alarm, with anger, with a loud no, the reaction becomes the most interesting thing in the experiment. Your toddler didn't get what they wanted from throwing. They got something much more powerful, a guaranteed, immediate, highly emotional reaction from the most important person in their world. Data. And the experiment continues. So let's talk about what works. Wamia, Strategy 1. Reduce the amount of food on the tray, or xiao. This is one of the most consistent findings in early childhood feeding research. When less food is available, throwing decreases. Or, not because your toddler is suddenly more disciplined, but because there is less material for the experiment. Offer 1 or 2 pieces at a time. Refill when they show interest. This small change alone reduces mealtime throwing in most toddlers within 1 week. See, it sounds too simple. That's exactly why parents skip it. Or fem? But think about what you're actually doing. You're removing the opportunity before the impulse fires. You're working with the brain, not against it. Strategy 2. Respond to the communication, not to the throw. If your toddler throws and you immediately remove the plate, bring a snack, or offer something else, you've just taught them that throwing is the fastest way to change what's happening at mealtime. The alternative is to read earlier. Watch for the pre-throw signals. Food being pushed around, head turning away, slowing down, less interest. These are communication. Respond to those. Say, looks like you're done, and remove the plate calmly before the throw. You're not surrendering. You're translating. The 2023 review by Norton and colleagues found that caregivers who responded to early hunger and satiety cues raised toddlers with significantly more positive mealtime behavior. 1. Strategy 3. Keep your reaction flat. This one is the hardest and the most effective. When your toddler throws, say one word calmly. Done. Remove the plate, no drama, no explosion, no lecture, no, why do you always do this? You are not rewarding the behavior. You are removing the most interesting variable in the experiment. The reaction. Within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent flat responses, most toddlers significantly reduce mealtime throwing. Not because they've learned it's wrong, their prefrontal cortex isn't ready for that lesson yet, but because the experiment stops producing interesting results. Let's bring it together. When your toddler throws food, their brain is not misbehaving. It's exploring. It's communicating. It's running cause and effect experiments with a prefrontal cortex that won't be fully online for years. The behaviors that look like defiance are almost always one of 3 things: a physics experiment, a language attempt, or a bid for your attention. And the most effective response is almost always the one that feels the least satisfying. Less food on the tray, more reading of early signals, and a calmer, flatter reaction to the throw itself. That's what the parenting brain is here for. Science that actually changes how you see your child. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video. And tell us in the comments, what's the most baffling thing your toddler does at mealtime? We read everyone.